A discussion instead, so I apologize. I didn't know that that was the case. Right. Yeah. He wanted a copy anyhow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's stuff on there.
So, yes, I bought my wife also. She said she wanted an Echo Dot, and
Oh, that's a good deal.
my son has I want to say a second generation. This one I bought for third, and I actually bought the second one too.
Yeah, we have them almost everywhere.
Is that help? To have them in every room? Do you play different music in every room?
You can.
Is it just
But you can make it play the same. So like I said, so it's when Hanukkah music is all music on the street.
Last week, they only heard me sing, which was unpleasant for the people at home, because the sanctuary mic was so strong that me go, Shalom Aleichem, but at home it was, here's a little choir, and Shalom Aleichem, it was like, Jenny was like, did you miss the street? I was like, no, you were coming in, you're good, wow. All right, look at my, I gotta get my towel.
Well, you can, absolutely. But just, I mean, if you're have a person from background, it's always listening to what you're saying. But, I mean, it is what it is.
I figured out that if it doesn't hear sound going around, it'll turn off the music even though I didn't tell it to.
Right. Really?
To play something. And I come back to those there.
Those were on the other, they were set out, and so I didn't know if that was you, if you were doing something.
No, let's
A
get
hand-
somebody use. I'll just put it right back there and give one more minute. Get my.
Oh, yours is better. Yeah, yours is better.
Sorry, Rabbi. I didn't mean to fluster you. I'll know better for next time.
No, I'm flexible. I just want to make sure it goes out.
Right, sure.
Determine which can. Okay. But you don't want it turns on.
We could have all sat on this thing. good. It's beat up, but it's comfy, so it's just one that's really full, and so nothing too much.
Last week I looked at the beginning of his training, and Jamie said, "You could really get to see it." And of course, the first 5 minutes,
It's a great time there.
Isn't it awesome? I told him that earlier today too when I saw it. Does it have the shamash in there too, or is it? It's a confusing conversation. That sounds so good.
Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for being. It's up. We're figuring it out. You can hear me well, so we're going to go down an inch. All right. There we go. Shabbat shalom and welcome. Great to have you all here with us this Friday night. I want to thank Jeff Kaetzer, who's in the back in a closet looking at all these cameras, trying to figure out, and so that people who cannot make it can watch our service at home. So I want to say Shabbat Shalom to them and to each of you and to our guests and all who are with us tonight. If you're a visitor for the first time, please do stick around at the end of our service. There will be an Oneg Shabbat, a chance to greet one another on this side of the building, and you can have a cookie or something to drink, and we can say hello to you and welcome you here to our congregation. I want to welcome John and the choir for being with us again this Shabbat, and I want to give a little shout out in your service sheets. Our all the different events, you can see we didn't quite get the memo. It's still a relatively busy week at Temple. And then, of course, everybody goes out of town or else just stops coming here. But before that happens, I want to point out to you that next Friday night is going to be very special. I asked Rabbi Mecklenburger, he's in Sherman tonight. We wish him a safe drive, helping the congregation there. But next week, I asked him to lead a cruise ship Shabbat. He knew just what I meant. So for anyone who's been on a cruise ship, what is a cruise ship Shabbat? ultra short because the food is waiting. So he has special skill from several years of cruises. He was a great sport about it, so that we can have a chance to say Kaddish and get through the prayers. And I say that because if you run on Jewish time, you'll miss the Kaddish. So he's going to lead a Shabbat. I'm giving you a heads up. I'm warning you, And then we're going to have a wonderful Shabbat Hanukkah concert. If you remember last year at this time, John and Cantor Shoshana and that band and Hans and all these, well, he's a part of it. We're all here playing music. And it's just people who came loved it. So you can ask the people who are here about it. And then we're going to have just all kinds of different things going on at the temple. MRJ cater dinner, program on olive oil. We're working on a snow machine. Results are in question. But either way, it will be a very fun Friday night if you're still in town to celebrate 2 days before Hanukkah. So I just wanted to give that little shout out as we got started. The other thing I wanted to do is just ask you to take a moment. Just take a moment and sort of let go of the week. If it was a really good week, hang on to it. But either way, just kind of take a deep breath. And whatever you are carrying into the temple that's just making it hard to breathe, just kind of take maybe your first deep breath of the day. And then don't forget to exhale. We all know the breathing in part, but don't forget to just let it go in the room. It'll float up. We'll still be here. All the hot air will go up there, and we'll be able to just make a little bit of room for all those things we didn't notice because we were driving or running or going or shopping or paying bills, or I'm not going to keep going because it'll remind you of the things you just let go of. But whatever it was, just let it go, let it go. It'll still be there later. I don't want to kind of intrude in the middle of the service, so I want us to spend a few minutes. Last week, for those of you who were here, we read Torah, and this week I wanted us to study Torah. And so what I wanted to do, and I wanted to do it at the beginning so we won't kind of mess up the whole flow of the service, is I wanted to give you something. Some of you have seen this in some of my other classes, not this exact page. Some of you haven't. And before you freak out, I wanted to show you something incredible you should know about. You might even have interest in looking at it again. I want to give you a page of something, and we're not going to read it all, so no one worry. We're not going to read it all, but I'm just going to pass around for everybody a few different pages, and I want to walk you through Torah study as it was studied for many, many centuries. I'm going to pass pages this way. We have plenty. I'm going to pass some pages this way. I think we're going to have plenty. I'm going to pass the rest of these just kind of going back. You can even take two. I'm going to pass couple here. I bet we're going to end up with some extras. I'm going to give a few here. And I'm going to tell you what we're looking at. No one worry. No one's going to be put on the spot with Hebrew, whatever. I'm going to do it all. Here we go. And I want to tell you what you're looking at. Some of you, there we go. If you're ever in yeshiva, but if you weren't, we got enough? Yeah, all right. Perfect. So I want you to know what we're looking at. This is Mikrot Gedolot. And that really just means the Great Bible. And any kind of commentary that has all these different answers is a Mikrot Gedolot. Now, what's really amazing about this, before you worry about what you're looking at, I'm going to show you what we're looking at, and we're going to look at something the way Jews have been studying for centuries. So when you would look at a Torah commentary and somebody would say, everybody knows that. Everybody knows Abraham was this. Everybody knows Esau was that. So how does everybody know? Well, everybody knows because some of these commentators permanently shifted the way we think about these stories. So Mikrot Gedolot is an amazing thing. It is a book that has many of the different comments. And by the way, those who are at home, I apologize you can't see this, but we will talk about it and I'll read everything. Even if I put this on the screen, they wouldn't know where to look. So imagine all this in Hebrew, which means that until the last few years, if you didn't know Hebrew, you couldn't study this. Okay? But now, the 5 books of Moses, the Torah, Genesis through Deuteronomy, whatever you want to call are translated in 5 volumes of Mikrot Gedolot. That doesn't mean you can just jump right into it, but it means you don't need to have that level of Hebrew mastery. So if you imagine this page all in Hebrew, that's what it would look like. I have them in my office, happy to show them. But what they've kept is the format. There are other Bibles that would have commentary from the centuries, but they were never situated this way. So if you look at Genesis 33, you say, well, there's a little tiny block in the middle, and that's from this week's Torah portion. And then what you have are 2 different translations. You have the old JPS and the new JPS, which just means one's more formal and one's a little freer. I don't want you to worry about that either. They're the same thing at the top. And then all these other comments are commentaries about the middle box from different periods in history. That's why no one's going to be quizzed. That's why I wanted you to see that. Who is this guy named Kimchi? Well, he lived 1160 in Provence. Who is this guy named Rashi? The original and most famous of the commentators. He lived in northern France. He was born in 1040. Who is this guy Ibn Ezra? He was born in Spain. He died in England. Now, of course, why is that important? That's important because biblical studies were very different in Sephardic and Ashkenazic countries. Sephardic countries early on were much more focused on sort of critiquing the grammar and inconsistencies in the text than Ashkenazic countries were. But why did I write those down here? Because when you look at a page like this, you've got a debate over several centuries. So Rashi, who's the first one, says, here's what it means. And then over the next few centuries, other people who knew about him say, well, that is true or that isn't true, or I don't think you know what you're talking about. And if you were to just get one of them out of context, you would say, I don't know what they're talking about. But on a page like this, you say, well, they're debating and arguing with someone else from 200 years earlier. And all these comments have affected the way we come to know Torah. Now, what kinds of things do these commentators notice? They notice inconsistencies in stories and grammar. They notice when words in the Torah are flipped. They notice when there's 2 versions of creation. And then they have to figure out, way before modern biblical scholarship, were there 2 stories of creation? Or was there a hidden meaning? Or was there another story? Right? They can't say as we can now, well, there are many versions edited over time. That would be a theological crisis. So there could be inconsistencies. There could be problems with characters. What did Abraham really mean? I don't know. Why do we look at commentaries like this? Because it brings fresh eyes. Because we're affected by everything we've heard since Hebrew school. So we know who the good guys are, we know who the bad guys are, we know who the great Jews are, we know who the challenging Jews are. Who told us all this? Well, our rabbis told us all this, and our Hebrew school teachers told us all this. But they got it from other people's opinions. So when you look at this, you go, oh, so the question is, what is today's problem? Now, if you were to flip over to this page from the Torah, you're going to be very overwhelmed. Don't be. This is what today's Torah portion looks like in the Torah. And you go, hey, there's no vowels. Holy gosh, of course, right? But if you go to the middle, you'll notice something strange from our Torah scroll. Yes, I took a picture from our Torah scroll. That's where this is coming from, not the internet, right? So if you go down, there's something weird about this Torah portion. One word in this Torah portion. What? You see vowels? Tell me where. Oh, Brendan, in the middle, there's one word with a whole bunch of dots above it. Now, I wanted to show you the Torah because if I didn't show it to you, you'd say, okay, so what? But here's a book with no vowels and then a series of dots over one word. So now our commentators say, why is that dotted in the Torah? Doesn't say in the Torah why it's dotted, it just is. So now they're going to ask them that. Now I'm going to tell you what is dotted. This is the story of Jacob and Esau when they meet. So quick Bible school reviewer course. Esau loses the birthright to Jacob. Esau says, you took what's mine, I'm going to kill you. Jacob runs away. Let's remember that Isaac loved Esau and
Rebekah loved Jacob, and they have them dress. She has her son dressed like the other brother. He gets the birthright. They run away. They're about to meet for the first time in years. And the English is, Esau ran to greet him. He embraced him, and falling on his neck, he kissed him, and they wept. Okay? Straightforward. That's it. The word that is dotted is he kissed him. Esau kisses Jacob. This is an incredible story because remember, Esau is the one who says, I'm going to kill you. Jacob is the one who runs. They spend their life apart. They meet for the first time. Jacob has separated his clan into two sides. He's walked alone on the other side of the river. He's prepared for Esau to kill him. His defenses are up, and Esau runs over to him, and he embraces him, and falling on his neck, he kissed him, and they wept. Well, they make up, right? I don't know. Oh, you're wondering about the falling on the neck. Oh, that's the Hebrew, right, okay. But the kissing is dotted. So the rabbis are going to say, why is the kissing dotted? Well, there's no other part of the Torah where the kissing is dotted. Why is that there? All right? So now they're going to argue about it. So I'm going to read you just a couple. So Rashi says, and you don't have to read them, you can listen if you like. But it's going down on the left side. Sorry to people at home. Okay, his better feelings took over when he saw Jacob bowing to him over and over again. So he was going to kill him, but then he saw his brother bowing and bowing. That's his opinion. All right, then he says he kissed him. The letters of this word in the Hebrew text have dots over them. There is a dispute about this in the Sifrei. Some take the dots to mean that Esau did not kiss him wholeheartedly. So the dots mean, all right, I'm kissing you, but I'm still really mad at you. I don't really mean it, okay? Because it's a known fact that Esau hates Jacob. Well, I don't know how it's a known fact. But to him, it's a known fact. At that moment, he was overcome with feeling, and he did indeed kiss him with all his heart. Okay. And then another Rabbi, Kimchi, also says he was so filled with compassion. And then this guy named Ibn Ezra, who's a bit of a superior, says, the midrash about the dots is good enough for those just taken away from the breast. What? Which is another way of saying, like a baby who was just born. Okay, the little story of the dots is enough, but the real point is that he was a good guy and he didn't mean to do anything badly. Okay, so Esau, maybe he was sorry, maybe he wasn't. And then there's a guy named Rabbi Yani, who 1,800 years ago does something very interesting. He says the 3 root letters for kiss are almost identical to the 3 root letters for bite. So he says the dot is there to show us that he wasn't really leaning over to kiss him. He was leaning over to bite him. And then when it says in the plural, they both cried, and we say, what a beautiful, coming together of 2 brothers. One cried because he was bitten, and the other cried because he hurt his teeth trying to bite him. I'm just passing the stories along. So, and you see on the back, you don't have to worry about it, but I show you how it's 2 out of 3 identical letters. So I didn't put that commentary in here. It's not on this page, but that's what they're talking about. They're saying, is he really sorry, Esau? Is he repentant? Or are the dots to show you that's not really what he did? And I could go through all the different responses about what dots mean, if it's superfluous, if you ignore it, if you read it. There are biblical commentators and academics, far more time and knowledge than I am, and there's a lot written on what the heck these dots mean, and there's many more theories that I'm not going to share right now. But the point is, I wanted you to see a page. I wanted you to see a debate, because you could have grown up in Hebrew school where they said Esau was so sorry, he begged forgiveness, just like on Yom Kippur. What a great guy. You could have also had a Hebrew school teacher who said that Esau was terrible. He actually bit him on the neck, and he's like an awful person. It's going to change the entire way you relate to these figures. The rabbis are really, really troubled by this. Why are they troubled by it? Because Jacob is the father of the Jewish people, not Esau. So then we have to say why. right? Are they uncomfortable with the ambiguity? Do they need to make Jacob the better one and Esau the worst one? Does there have to be a clear villain and a hero? Are they uncomfortable with Jacob as a flawed person? We're comfortable with Jacob as a flawed person. Our biblical figures aren't saints, but they're uncomfortable. How do you know they're uncomfortable? Well, they're talking about it all over this page. And they're trying to figure out what the heck those dots mean over the word kiss. So I want to show you, when we hear these stories, where these stories come from. Now, here's the thing. And I could have just given you a sermon and you would have said, oh, thank you, Rabbi, for explaining it. But I wanted to share it with you. What I wanted to share with you was how this amazing text makes these different people have a debate in the middle of a page. And how people over 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 centuries are all talking to one another. Imagine if the cliff notes to a book were all around the book you were reading. Right there having a dialogue across the ages. It's an incredible way to write a book. But now, there's a second consideration for us relevant to us now. So Esau comes over to Jacob. Jacob assumes the worst. Esau comes over and falls on his neck. And it's pointed out the language is very odd. I'm not going to get any more nuances today. I'll be happy to do it at the Yonic Shabbat if you really want, or another class. But there are many more conversations about what's really going on, why it's plural, why the two verbs kissed and embraced are separated in the verse. And there's all kinds of arguments that try to back up the argument of either Esau's truly repentant and sorry and loves his brother, or Esau's coming to bite him on the neck and the whole thing's a trick and he's a terrible person. And all those arguments go to build up toward it. And we can see what the ramifications can be for us with our biblical characters. But I also want to suggest that the trauma we're looking at in the story is not just the trauma of 3,000-year-old biblical characters. It's the trauma of people who have not worked through their collective pain, right? And how do we know that? Because we have rabbis who live 1,500, 1,000, 500 years ago debating over whether the person coming to see them is there to kill them or embrace them. And in their debate is a bigger debate about how we respond to threat. So this isn't just the trauma of 2 characters in the Bible. The way we are affected by those characters in the Bible is based on all of the years of history that we have seen. When someone comes to you, is it a kiss coming or a bite? So I have to share with you something that happened, 2 events in very close order Wednesday night. I think it was Wednesday. Wednesday night, I had the opportunity to be at an event down somewhere on Panther Island next to a car shop that was held by the Tarrant Coalition for Peace and Justice. The Tarrant Coalition for Peace and Justice had a group of people outside in front of the spot where Fred Rouse was lynched 98 years ago on that exact day. The only known lynching in Fort Worth, of which there is no marker, no memorial, no site, trees long gone. And the people who were there took the dirt from the ground, put it into a jar they're going to send to the Museum of Lynching that's in Alabama. And then they were doing something with the other jar, but I was caught up enough in the moment, I don't remember what was happening to the other jar. But they sent it off. And then Fred Rouse's great-nephew spoke about this dark secret that his father and others in the family would talk about growing up. But they would never tell him. He grew up like other kids, had a good life, but there was always something they were talking about, some kind of concern. No one really addressed it when he was growing up. And what he said is, we need a marker. We have to acknowledge. We have to tell the story, even though there are people who don't want us to tell the story, because only through telling the story can we move beyond the collective trauma of unaddressed injustices. Right after that, I jumped in my car, I ran over to Beth-El, where there was a very good program about security in congregations. So 4 Tarrant County congregations were here, and a very nice man gave of his time, who's like a 20-plus year law enforcement professional, and he talked about ways you keep your synagogue safe. It was all very, 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 very useful tips. But his biggest criticism of Jews was, oh, Jews are too nice, they always assume the best. He was Jewish, to get away with this. He said, Jews are too nice. Someone comes up to you, they have a smile, they want to do the right thing, and then they're going to get themselves in trouble. He says, always assume the biggest threat, be prepared for the threat. This is very timely, coming on the same week as a shooting. So always be prepared for the worst, and then you'll be pleasantly surprised if it's not. Everybody's coming to mug you, da-da-da. I could not separate these two events in the same 3-hour period. And I thought about them together in the sense of how we move beyond trauma. How we move beyond collective trauma. Anti-Semitism is real. Lynchings really happen. Trauma is a real thing. And trauma, as I looked it up, causes significant injury to the brain and can affect the brain structure and how it experiences stress. So there's our definition of trauma. Consistent, unacknowledged trauma actually has been shown to change the very wiring of your brain. So collective, unaddressed trauma affects the way we respond to things in the world. Right? Is the person coming to kiss? Is the person coming to hug? Is the person a threat? Is the person my ally? The threat is real. There's certainly lots of anti-Semites this week. But how does that affect the whole way we see the world? How does that affect the way these African Americans see the world? We can continue talking. Holocaust trauma, okay? Except we can't blame it on the Holocaust because these rabbis dealt with trauma and they lived 1,500 years ago. So how does unaddressed trauma affect those who experienced it, their children, their children's children? How does it change the whole way we relate to people? How do we deal with conversations in this country, in other countries, that never address the sort of thing we don't want to unearth? So many communities have not begun to really explore collective drama. A few weeks ago, we had a guest, a man who converted to Judaism, Dr. Volschlanger, whose father was an Iron Cross clad heroic Nazi who became a Jew. And his whole book was about the trauma of growing up in a town where no one spoke about what happened 15 years earlier until Munich and the Olympics. No one spoke. It was just there in the ground, under the trees, waiting. So we have to give some thought with these Torah portions to the trauma of other minority groups, the trauma of Jews. Issues of sexual harassment are now all over our country. The traumatic effects of those we haven't begun to address, right? Not only those who are victimized, but the fact that everybody else is afraid to shake anybody else's hands. So on the one hand, not everybody gets a kiss or a hug all the time. On the other hand, what do we say about a society where everybody's terrified of giving a kiss or a hug? There's so many ways that these unaddressed traumas play out. When is a kiss a kiss? When is a kiss a bite? When is a kiss a violation? These commentaries, which might seem to you like ancient and archaic, show us our ancestors debating and addressing these issues centuries ago and trying to understand how we can live as a people in the diaspora with all this baggage over our heads, trying to understand when to extend a hand, when to hug, when to put up our guard, when to be afraid. Fight or flight. And our Torah commentaries are magnificent, magnificent records of what our ancestors struggled with, what was addressed throughout Jewish history, what was not addressed, and how it might have affected the way we see the world. And so I don't give you an answer. That's not what Torah commentary does, really. But it presents challenges in books that are thousands of years old and speak to us as if they were but yesterday. And so I hope now, if nothing else, you know what Mikrot Gedolot is. I hope the next time the rabbi tells you that Jacob was a good or bad person, at least you know where we're getting these answers from. And The next time someone comes up to you and asks for a hug or $1 at a gas station or stops you at a light and your reaction is either of course or roll up the windows, let's go a drop deeper and say, what buttons am I wired for? And where are they coming from? And are my reactions serving me well or not? And how do we function in a country that is increasingly wired for stress? Page 371. A prayer for all who are unable to function, all who are afraid, all who have unaddressed trauma, as well as all those who are ill and in need of healing. And in addition to the names on the back of your service sheet, we have the names of Patrick Cooney, Ted Mack, and those names you might wish to add as I look around the room.
Jamila, Cynthia Allen.
Fiona and Jerry Levy.
Thank you. For all those in need of healing, both the names we mention and the names we may not be ready to mention, but are still in our minds or on the tips of our lips. For all of them, O God, we pray you will bring healing, strength to their caregivers, strength to whatever demons they face, so that they can be strong and whole and healed in time. We enter this sacred space to voice the longings of our hearts in prayer. In sacred company, we offer our love to the Holy One. May our hearts be lifted. May our thoughts be deepened. May our souls like eagles soar. Page 128. Maya Fehayom.
Maya Fehayom. Shabbat Shalom. Maya Fehayom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Great to have Elizabeth Beck and Russ Schultz with us on the Bema. Elizabeth will be lighting the Shabbat candles for us. That blessing is on page 120. And if you have two sets of pages in your prayer book, I'm always referring to the one in brackets, just so you know. Page 142, as we turn to that page, the sun on the treetops no longer is seen. Come, let us gather to welcome Shabbat, our Queen. Page 145, we read together, "Teach me, O God, a blessing, a prayer, on the mystery of a withered leaf, on ripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to hope, to despair. Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew the days. Lest my day be today as the one before, lest routine set my ways. We read together at the bottom of 147. O God, you are as near as the very air we breathe, yet farther than the furthermost star. We yearn to reach you. We seek the light and warmth of your presence. Though we say you are near, we are lonely and alone. Oh, let our desire be so strong that it will tear the veil that keeps you from our sight. Let your light release our darkness and reveal the glory and joy of your presence. 150.
Amen.
Please be seated. As we turn to 155, those who are in our Tuesday morning class can tell you the question is not just, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God," but how? How do we do it? And as we discuss on Tuesdays. And luckily there on 155, the rabbis pick another passage from the Torah and say, "Here's our answer. Maybe it's yours." We read together. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work, whether you are tired or are rested. Let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai, your God. I led you out of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai, your God. Page 158, these words of liberation, these words of aspiration and hope, our people sing whenever we slog through the waters toward redemption. Page 160 together. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life, to peace, and more. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, kol Yisrael, al Yerushalayim.
Israel.
as we turn to Tefillah, the central prayer section of our service, we'll begin together, then we'll continue silently. But before we do, once more, to think about whatever times during the week you just felt like banging your head into the car radio. Sorry, that's too personal example. Whatever time during this week that you just felt like you needed a break from all the noise. And just to take that deep breath once again, to shut out all the noise that in time will be forgotten. And to focus again on what will really matter 10, 20, 30 years from now. Thinking about our families, thinking about our lives, thinking about the most essential messages, those teachings, our core that we hope to pass on. What is in our core? What is the very essence of who we are? Just take a moment to return to really your center, free from all that other noise of the week. Adonai, open up our lips from within our deepest places to where these songs spring forth, that our mouths may declare a sense of gratitude. Please rise.
Adonai, sevet haitita, ulfia kita milatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei Hakol, Ve'zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imakot, U'mei Gura Livnei B'neihem, Leman Shemo B'Yahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gevur Eloah Adonai, Mekayeh Ha'ol, Atah L'Shiach, Mekayeh Chayim B'Chesed, Mekayeh Hakol B'Rachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim B'Rofech Oholim, U'Mazir Atzurim, U'Mekayeh Emunato, L'Shenei Afar, Michamoch Abba Gevurot, U'Mido Melach, Melech Hemid, U'Mekayeh, U'Mazniach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah l'chayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekayeh hakol, Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, V'kedoshim l'kol yom yelu chasdecha, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
Standing or seated, just take a few moments to read or reflect over the next several pages. Yalenu is a prayer that seeks a time when the universe, the peoples of the world are aware of God's oneness, divisions are removed, and violence is ended. We turn to 586 and we rise before the open ark for Alenu. Thank you, Russ. Please be seated. We have lived in numberless towns and villages, and in too many of them we have endured cruel suffering. Some we have forgotten, others are sealed in our memory. A wound that does not heal, 100 generations of victims and martyrs. Still their blood cries out from the earth, and so many at Dachau, at Buchenwald, at Baba Yar. What can we say? What can we do? How bear the unbearable or accept what life has brought to our people? All who are born must die, but how shall we compare the slow passage of time with the callous slaughter of the innocent, cut off before their time? They lived with faith, not all but many, and surely many died with faith. Faith in God, in life, in the goodness that even flames or gunshots cannot destroy. May we find a way to the strength of that faith. Somehow that trust, that faith, that sure sense that life and soul endure beyond this body's death. Each of them throughout history have left their lives to us. Let a million prayers rise whenever Jews worship. Let a million candles glow against the darkness of these unfinished lives. To the names that we add on this Shabbat, we add the names of Moshe Deutsch, Mindy Ferentz, Miguel Douglas, and Detective Joseph Seals, who gave his life and left behind 5 children and a wife to save Jews on a corner, on a street in New Jersey. And we add the yard sites, the anniversaries of their deaths, and if you wish, it is the custom of some in this congregation to rise when they hear the name of one for whom they are memorializing on this, the anniversary of their death. And we add Gordon Appleman, Sarah Gordon, Ben Gilbert, Harold Gilbert, Bob Moffner, Henrietta Vogt, Jack I. Schwartz, Morris Schiff, Bernard Bubba Rubin, Helen Rosenthal, Ben Rosenthal, Dorothy Rosenstein, Ann W. Fred Rolnick, Dorothy Levy-Roddy, Elaine Moffner, Frida Myron, Ethel Minker, Irene Levy, Gertrude Lurer, Regina Schlinger-Hockman, Darwin W. Hirsch, Sam Hiller, Mary Haas, Frank Greenbaum, Edward Glass, Ben M. Gilbert, Louis Friedman, Henry P. Florsheim Jr., Earl I. Evans, Abraham Jacob Kuhls, David Brown, Etta Brackman, Lorraine Bellett, Ann D. Aston, Edith Askin, Meyer Ander, and we note in this 30-day period of mourning known as Shloshim and mention the name of David Lawrence Ingram. And for those we mention and those unmentioned, those we remember and those who lie in unmarked places, for all we rise, page 598. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah, bi'alma divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chai echon u'vyom echon, b'chai d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agalal v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam olmei maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitrom v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitala shmei d'kudsha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush b'chata v'nechamata. Dam yiram b'yalmal v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Zichronam levracha. May all their memories be a source of strength to those who remember and serve as a blessing for all who are in mourning. We say, Amen. Before you are seated, we're going to turn to the Kiddush, the Motzi, and then we're going to sing some closing songs right afterwards. So the blessing over wine is on page 123. And you get to hold the cup. No, don't wake them up. Okay, here we go. We have other cups if somebody wants it. We have little cups. Here we go. But we are going to all join in Kiddush, and if you've been craving some grape juice, no, wake him up. You know, years from now he'll say, thanks to the rabbi, I cut up on all that sleep I missed it on school days, when I had to stay up late and wake up early. It's good. So we join together in the blessing over wine. May our Shabbat be as sweet as this. And we join together. One more.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 24-hour Christmas age, so we can do 2 Hanukkah songs.
You ready? Let's have a party with all that's the gather round the table, we'll live in the tree. Send on favors and not us to eat. And watch our way. The candles are burning low. One for each night, they share as we light to remind us the days long ago. One for each night, they share as we light to remind us the days long ago. Little faster, ready? Hanukkah, the night of menorah. Let's have a party with all that's the gather round the table, we'll give you a treat. Send a bunch of favors and not just to eat. And while we eat our way, the candles are burning low. One for each night they shed every light to remind us the days long ago. One for each night they shed every light to remind us the days long ago.
And before we all go, no, I have to do it because you're going to be humming it all night. It's the only irritating anecdote to like the 24 hours. I love the Christmas songs, but now you'll be humming this till tomorrow morning. I have a
I'm making out a play, and when it's dry and ready, with cradle I shall play. Oh, cradle, 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 I'm making out a play, and when it's dry and ready, with cradle I shall play.
Dainu, right? Okay, different holiday. Shabbat Shalom.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice touch. It was very good. Well done.
Choir and percussion.
Yeah, can't beat that. Nothing wrong with it.